with them. So I'm R. Wayne Woodson. I'm the managing partner for Woodson and Associates, and we are a consulting firm that deals with higher ed. We specifically focus on enrollment management, fundraising, strategic planning, and our primary focus is HBCUs, although we do work with some PWIs. And so we've been getting a lot of questions about the admission process and changes or benefits, especially in this COVID-19 situation. And so I wanted to bring on a friend of mine, Dr. Cranford. And so she will share with you who she is and what she does.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. I am Alatoria Cranford. I've been in higher education going on 10 years now, a whole decade in this thing. I currently serve as the first and second year program assistant director at Fort Valley State University, which is where I cultivate, challenge, help students transition to the college life, the college scene, education, academically, socially, and professionally. I'm also the founder and president of Transpire One Incorporated, which is an organization that's focused on helping students succeed, college preparedness, leadership development, personal development, consulting as it relates to the college process and searching for colleges. So it's a, uplift, trying to leave no student behind.
I mean, I think that's a good thing. I think if we had more people trying to leave no student behind, we'd have a much better educational system.
It's a passion,
It is.
It's work different when it's a passion.
That is very true. Because many of our students will make much more money than we will.
Oh, most definitely.
Most definitely. So I wanted to start this morning's discussion with just talking about what are some of the changes that are happening right now in higher ed in terms of admissions processes. You are currently on the front line still in the university space, and I am kind of on the sidelines assisting everybody. So what are some changes that are happening right now?
Well, the greatest change for incoming students, prospective students, is test scores. Many colleges are waiving test scores. However, although some are waiving the test scores, not even to have the ACT, SAT, or meet the standard score that they require, they still have stipulations, like the GPA may have to be a 3.0 for some schools. So it's really just a research aspect. I know Claflin just announced about their waiving test scores, but they have you got to have a 3.0. 3.0. The remaining requirements still have to be met. They're just waiving test scores. So most students, they have test anxiety. They don't do well, or the test is just not their friend. So this is the ultimate time. If you know your GPA is amazing, everything else falls in line. This is the time to apply to whatever school you desire. You're still going to have to pay. It's still going to cost. So don't put any restrictions on where you apply, because you never know what funding may follow. But take advantage of it. I know the entire university system, Georgia, which is like your public schools, they've waived test scores across the board, except for UGA and Georgia Tech, because they already have their incoming class. They choose early. So that's another thing with the application process. You got to know when the deadlines are. If you have these schools as your goals, then you need to know when the deadlines are so that you can meet them and be prepared to be accepted. So the major thing right now is the waiving of the test scores, which is really clutch. It's such a free straight line as it relates to the application process, because many students don't apply because they don't have the test score. They can have an amazing GPA, 3.8, but the test score is not that great. So this is the time to take advantage. Take this hand up, this free card, this grace, apply.
I was one of those students, I do not test well at all. And so my GPA was good. I had all these extracurricular activities and all, but we won't even discuss my SAT or my ACT score because I may as well not even have gone in to take the
test. Barely made 1,000, honestly, on the SAT.
Right. But at that time when we went to undergrad, they were actually still using those scores to even admit you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was so stressed out. I mean, I was great that I got into college, but I was worried I wasn't even going to get in.
Yeah,
because that was such a big factor.
They stress it. And outside of the undergraduate, there are some graduate schools taking the same approach, believe it or not. saying you don't need the GRE or MAT. I saw someone post, I think, about UNC Charlotte for one of their programs. They put it in there. It might be for all programs, but that's just a program they brought to focus on that I saw.
Well, I was looking because, I mean, they're not even offering the test really because of the social distancing and because this test centers are closed.
Right, ours is closed because we have a testing site, so ours is closed, and it was kind of rough getting the students to do their exit exams. So they kind of have no choice but to waive because the students don't have the opportunities to retake and do better, you know. So it all
Right.
works out. I just hope we take advantage of it. I hope.
I mean, yeah, and I think that'll help a lot of students too. So if I'm a student and I haven't applied yet for college, you know, there are some people who believe that you can't get in at this point. I am not one of those people, especially in this climate, because, you know, recruiters can't get to schools right now and schools still have to meet their numbers. So what are your thoughts?
I will apply until I get a rejection, get a no. There are many schools, believe it or not, they still accept up until the start date for the fall, because they may still have dorm space, may still have money to give. And there are several reasons, and they have a goal. So I wouldn't discount applying to colleges just because I haven't physically seen a recruiter. Um, I'm not able to physically go to the campus. None of those are reasons not to apply. I will apply until I get a letter that says we've made our quota or you just didn't get in type. I will still apply. Although you can't make it to campus, I do strongly suggest that students go to visit the websites and do their virtual tours. Many colleges are uploading virtual tours, and if they have summer enrollment sessions, all of those are going to be virtual as well, which they aim to make very interactive. I wouldn't let this stop me from applying. I wouldn't let the timeline stop me from applying. You'll be surprised. I've seen over the years people applying the first day of class. And if there's a space, congratulations. If you meet the requirements, congratulations. You just have to understand that you have to make the adjustment as it relates to move-in, as it relates to getting that financial aid completed, which I hope every senior has completed their FAFSA. October 1, it opened up. You should have had it done by October 3rd, but hopefully you got it done. But I wouldn't let any of this stop me. Continue to apply, continue to research the colleges, most websites have like a chat section, whatever questions you may have, go ask, go inquire. There's still interactivity going on, just not in the physical for the sake of where we are with the pandemic.
So one viewer asks, should students hold on before committing in hopes of better scholarships? I've applied, but some of the scholarships are not as much as needed. So my thoughts on that are, have you reached out to the school and talked to them directly? Have you talked to the professors in the department that you're looking to go to? Because sometimes there's additional money that might not be dispersed through the admissions office. When I was at Payne, admissions reported to me there was money that, my office dispersed, but there's also other money on the campus. And so that's why I think it's always important that people talk to the professors in the department that they're looking to go into, because there might be other opportunities. But what are your thoughts?
So that is correct. Most times we like to look just on the website under financial aid for scholarships. Whatever the major is or the department that the major falls under, that department sometimes receives information that's not even posted to the actual website. So, excuse me. So it's always best to reach out to that particular department to see if they have any funding. It never hurts to ask. Check the financial aid website, check their alumni page, see if they have alumni scholarships. Wherever you're located, see if they have an alumni organization where you are, see if they have scholarships to offer to students in that area, especially if you're going to their institution. You'll be surprised how many organizations actually, gather funds if they don't already have a scholarship. And then there are general searches that some may take, depending on where the school is. Consider yourself, who you are. If you know what you want to major in, you need to search scholarships by those particularities. Race, gender, major of focus, location where you are, where you're headed, any organizations that your parents or guardians may be associated with. see if they have a scholarships. Places that you vend often or you visit, you eat, grocery shop, ask these people if they have scholarship fund. If not, it may get them to thinking to create one because I'm sure they have some sort of budget if they are a fluent business that they can give out some money. Those $200, $500, $1,000 scholarships, they all add up. It's the least you would have to pay. So do not apply for scholarship. Do not think you need to apply for scholarships that are just $100, $200 because all that little money adds up. Every coin matters. So I would, as far as it comes to committing, you should commit based off if they have your major, commit if they have the funding that you need. If you're expecting a full ride and you don't want to commit off that, just be careful. Many colleges, full ride may not be the only way, but there may be other routes to get college paid for. So although you may have, let's say 75% of your tuition paid for, room and board and all of that, your other funding could come from work study that you may qualify for. Or the following year, if you apply to be like a resident assistant, they normally get paid. Some campuses have on-campus jobs outside of work study that could use toward your aid or paying for college. So you just have to ask the right question to get the right answer with the right people.
And just know that if you hold off on committing, you could also potentially be relinquishing your space.
Yeah, that money could go to someone else.
Right.
It's like a first come, first serve, regardless of your standards. If they have a set budget, they're not going to, if they offer you an amount in the beginning, consider it, wait a little while, but it could increase, but most likely it's going to decrease because they're going to have another prospective student or potential star student or whatever to come in and could swipe all your little coins that you could have had.
I mean, so if it's a school that you're really interested in and you are not, the financial offer is not exactly what you expected, still consider the school. And I'll use me as an example. I went to Morehouse. What I got my first year was not what I wanted to get. Now, it wasn't as expensive back then as it is now. However, in my second year, you know, like Ms. Cranford said, I was in a lot of other activities on campus that had financial benefits. And so by end of my second year, I no longer had to pay for school for the rest of the time I was there. So there are ways once you get there to get involved and do things that also can assist with paying for the school. But if it's a school you want to go to with a major and professor that you think will benefit you, that I believe should always be your first thought process because in the long run, that's going to be most beneficial.
Most likely, yeah. I will stick to it if it's really your school of choice. Because although you'll receive your greatest amount of funding, for first year students, but that doesn't mean other funding is not available. Because sometimes the campus may put out other scholarships that you can apply for. Entities outside of the actual institution may send scholarships like, "Hey, we're looking for a student to do this, do that," and it's another scholarship. So I wouldn't totally count myself out because I don't see the full dollar covered on day one.
That was a good question, and you are very welcome. If you have questions, just type them in the chat box, and we'll be glad to answer them. So the other question that we've been getting a lot is there's a lot of talk about schools remaining virtual in the fall and how that will impact, you know, first semester students. I know that is an area that you oversee at Fort Valley. So how would that, if I'm a new student, how will that impact, you know, my transition to college, which for a lot of students is a very scary experience in the first place, and now I'm still at home?
Well, yeah, that is a great question, and it has been a thought process, especially for our institution at Fort Valley, in the position that I hold. With our summer, it's been official, it's going to be online, of course. So the students making the adjustment, which every week I have a little small check-in just to see where they are, how they're feeling, you know, any problems that they're having, make sure they're registered for their classes for the fall. And most of them are just having the adjustment of just being at home for the most part. Someone feel like they're receiving more work than ever if they were in the classroom, which I get it. I get it, you know, and that's probably the biggest complaint for the students that are to be enrolled in the fall. The summertime is normally the time that we have our enrollment sessions, making sure they're squared away with all paperwork, housing, financial aid, academic advising, receiving schedules, the whole shebang. So all of this is now having to be done virtually. So the advisors, they have to set up appointments. The students are kind of in control. They have the accountability of registering themselves, which is something we didn't do while I was there. It may have done it a while ago, but now they're doing it. So they have total control to input classes and get things done. However, the advisor does have the conversation with them back and forth. This is what I suggest. This is what I see. But it's also teaching them accountability. So although this is a major transition for most institutions going totally online, it's teaching the students some responsibility and accountability because their grades still matter. They still have to graduate. We still want them out. Now, as it relates to the fall, I also oversee New Student Orientation Week. So it's like a week full of events, speakers coming in. So it's a heavy, impactful week, but it's a great time, and it's one of the greater experiences that most freshmen remember coming into college. So I'm having to consider what would it look like virtually. And virtually, I mentioned it to my student leaders, and they're like, "Nah, we're not claiming that. We're going back." It's like we're going back to campus, but I still have to consider the contingency plan. Like, if we're not going back to campus, how am I going to be even more engaging with my students or incoming students this first year? Number one, I have to increase my engagement throughout the summer.
Right.
That's my only focus. Not just me, my student leaders are going to have to overly exert their excitement and communication with the incoming students just to make sure that they're staying on track, getting the things that they need, and they're still preparing to come and keeping them updated on what the changes are on the campus. Now, we can tell the students all day long to check emails, check your student account email. Some of them still won't do it, so we still have to go the extra mile and make sure these things are lining up. So I am considering and thinking about the virtual aspect of New Student Orientation Week. I oversee the FESU 0100 courses, so all the professors that teach those courses, I have to revamp my syllabus and make it fit virtually, and it really pushes my creativity, which I'm not upset about. So when they say we were going online, it really pushed my creativity, and I appreciate it, although it was so sudden. But we knew this was coming, but it's just a major adjustment has to be made. So the engagement through the summer will be probably the driving factor as it relates to students and their excitement to still participate in the fall, whether virtually or on campus. But the prayer is that we will be on campus, claiming it.
Hey, Dr. Felton, we see you too. Reverend Birdsong, thank you. Everything we do is for our students all across the country. So, we're trying to help them as much as we can because we know a lot of them are very concerned about where we are and how they transition. And, it's going to be a different transition for a lot of students because they're doing all of this with little help because, a lot of times the high school counselors help with a lot of this stuff and they're not in their schools either. So a lot of them are trying to maneuver all of these processes with, especially if you're a first generation college student, with parents that were not part of that process. And so it can be very daunting. And so we're trying to do our part to help.
So my thing with those incoming students, I hope their guardians or parents or whoever is helping them in the process are taking the necessary steps to prepare them for the fall in case this is the case. So if their high schools now are virtually, I hope they make that same adjustment as it relates to the college aspect. College aspect, they're probably not getting on the computers live teaching as much. So students have to be even more responsible to meet deadlines for 5 or 6 classes, having to write multiple papers in 1 week, so these are things they may want to try to, I don't know how they could practice over the summer, but realize this is what it's taking. But I really hope the process or the change doesn't turn people away from wanting to attend college. The experience will be minimized, yes, but hopefully it doesn't turn them away to not want to attend college. So that's why the goal is to just stay as engaged as possible, let them know campus is still thriving, although not physically at 1005 State University Drive. We're still out here World Wide Web trying to make
it. And that's a misconception that I've been trying to correct people. Schools are not closed.
Not closed. Church is
people are not working on the campus and classes are not happening on the campus, but schools are open
they
and people are working.
are.
But this misconception that all the schools are closed, every time I hear somebody say that, I just cringe. I'm just like, schools are not closed.
Grades are still due.
Right.
And these students still want their finish out the semester because they're graduating. Okay. So that matters.
So how are you working on the engagement? You mentioned the engagement piece, and I've been discussing that with a lot of people, that right now, even for our current students, like engagement is key because one, we want them to come back.
Right.
But two, any student that's applied to a school, you know, if you lose that engagement or that connection, then they could go somewhere else. So what are some things that you're doing to keep the new students engaged?
Well, the engagement aspect, some people think that it's just, an email is engaging, a phone call is engaging. You got to meet them where they are. I created a TikTok account because that's what my students are.
Right.
That's where my students are. Instagram, I'm just as open as I can be. Twitter, I engage Twitter even more than ever now because that's where they are. Twitter is their number one hub for communication. So anything that I need to get out there, I put it out there. I also have my go-to student leaders. Hey, I need y'all to push this. Let me know what they're saying type thing. So I think you got to have a committed squad, which I do have a committed squad, and I meet them where they are. And most times I have to remember that when I'm replying under the work account, one of the students like, oh yeah, that's Miss Cranford right there. Just being, I'm very transparent with them and they know it. They know that I'm very transparent and I'm only here to help. So I most definitely meet them where they are. I let them communicate whatever they need to communicate without any restrictions. So I'm not asking them to paint the picture. I need them to say whatever it is that they're feeling so that I can kind of put it together. Because sometimes they just don't have the words. Like even when I would have my sessions on campus, they're trying to find the proper words to say it. And I was like, just say it how you feel it. And that's with me being that real with them. They don't mind responding or seeking me for assistance, which, is good and it's bad because I am pretty much always available, accessible for them. But that engagement piece, I'm meeting them where they are and I don't leave them out of the conversation. I'm always asking, what is it that y'all want to do? Always. I don't make moves without their input because it's students first in my book. So they're always engaged in the process. I be the one to take it to the table. Well, these are what my students are feeling. Take it to the table. They have to agree or shut it down. Then I have to back it up with evidence. Like telling them this is the reality of it, regardless of what the picture they want to paint. This is the demographic that we're serving, and this is what their need is. So, number one, and probably the only one, I meet them where they are, and I most definitely get their input on any and everything. So even with the new students coming in, the question is, what is your fear? What do you think you will struggle with? Let's talk through it. Let's see what's happening. Let's try to address it now so that when that time comes, you're ready, at least more ready than you thought you would be. That is the biggest thing. Never leave a student out in your decision.
I mean, I think, people are always saying, our students are our customers, our students are our customers. I hate that model, but they're also our product. And, when they get out, the goal is that they should represent themselves and the institution with excellence. And so, I mean, it does require.
They get out when they can. We try to correct that while they're a student. Like, you have to be unwavering in your support of the school that you're attending. What you just posted, I several times, no shame. Students, screenshot, I sent it to them. Do you really think this was appropriate? Student wanting to be a student leader, I can go look at their Facebook and this guy be this, that. This is not going to work. Consider this moving forward. And it's just a correction. They'd be like, yes, ma'am, thank you. I'm not tearing them down. Just consider this. I have to give them the scenario. So you're molding them in the process so that they can be the better product when they do leave your institution. And they can appreciate the small corrections here and there and in their future businesses or whatever they decide to do.
And that's also key for when they move into the corporate world. I mean, there are just certain things, a friend of mine works for a big company, and part of the application process is that you put not just the names on your social media, but all your passwords.
Hmm.
And they will go into your account and go in your messenger and everything else, because what this company does not want is a huge scandal to
Right.
erupt while you work there. But your public image is very important, and what you put out there on social media is important.
I said whether you typed it, hit send, share. If you shared it, it's still your message. It is what it is. The first thing I see when I open up your profile is "Be I'm the one." No, ma'am, you're not the one. Not today. I need you to correct that, especially if you're going to be working with me and under me and representing this institution. I mean, you can't control them all, but those that want to work with you and they're going to be a representation of you, I need them all to be as clean and as slate as they can be. Of course, they're going to make mistakes, but you're at least going to look like you got it.
And I think that's important for high schoolers as well when you're applying to colleges. Colleges are known in the admissions process to go through your social media as well when they're screening students.
Most definitely. Most definitely. And they were screening them in, especially those students that may qualify for scholarships. They're giving scholarships to your athletes. All of them, they can screen whoever they like because, again, once you put it in the www, the World Wide Web, we have access. And people, I saw a post where someone said, you're doing all these challenges and questionnaires. That's how people find out about you. They can figure out your password, your favorite color, favorite restaurant, favorite, things like that. And I thought that was very interesting, and I understood it wholeheartedly because it doesn't take much for people to figure out things. To hack.
And this generation puts their entire life on the internet. So, I mean, you don't have to even ask some of them a question because you just go to their social media and find everything out you need to know.
That part.
So here's a question. I have an idea of where I want to go, but how can I really make a decision without touring? Academics are important, but I also would like to see where I'm going to be staying at, to see where I'm going to be and make sure it's a good fit.
So again, the virtual tours are important. Although the campus has an overall virtual tour, when it comes to the residential life aspect of it, many campuses have a virtual picture of what the room is. On top of that, I know most of you are probably on social media. Ask, are there any students that are currently enrolled at this institution, students that are incoming? They're pretty honest about their experience. They are pretty honest about the experience. And I know at Fort Valley, the students, they create their hashtag, and that's how they meet each other, FESU24 or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
They all hashtag that. Who's going to Fort Valley in the fall? It's just a general ask. You see the several retweets. The questions that are asked, they meet their roommates there, they exchange numbers. Don't be afraid to ask whatever the institution may be. Ask current students that's just out here publicly, is there anyone attending Fort Valley State University? What do you think about the residential life? What do you think about the campus? What do you think about the surrounding area? Ask the questions that you want to know. They're pretty honest, and don't just stick with a response from one person.
Right. I was just about to say that.
Anybody that responds to, I'm a student there, or I went there, I just graduated, all of their opinions matter. Because in most cases, you can't take the opinion of one and just run with it. Because that student may have had a bad experience that may not have been the school's fault. And some people hold those grudges, believe it or not, until they're 30, 40 plus, which is why many don't give, holding those type of grudges. But I do suggest that you ask the question, see if the campus has virtual tours. Of course, many of them are not allowing you to be on campus for foreseen reasons. But ask questions, go to their virtual tours. Any student that responds, if you need help finding someone that's a student there, just let me know. I pretty much know somebody in almost every circuit, or I can get to somebody that can help you, figure it out and see what the experience is like. So I know that's going to be a tough piece for many students going in.
And the other thing is, if it's an HBCU, most HBCU student government associations have Instagram pages. Mm-hmm. And if you at them with a question, they're really responsive. And their royal courts have them too. And they're really responsive. And sometimes, to our chagrin, they will be very candid with you. But they'll actually respond and answer your question. and they'll have insights on programming and things that you might not get from a virtual tour.
Yeah,
You
I would,
know,
I would say follow all of those handles. Um, Twitter, Instagram, the school that you're interested in, or schools that you're interested in, follow all their handles. The main school page, the athletics page, the SGA page, the Royal Court page. They all have a little nugget that you can take away. Even some residential life have pages. So seek them, follow.
and then also go do a Google search, type the school name in and hit the news button, and that will give you any information that has been made known about the school, because there might be some things that you need to know about the school before you get there.
Yeah.
Or there might be some very positive things that the school has done or that they're known for that aren't really talked about. And so that is another way, you know, for you to get information. But like Ms. Cranford said, a lot of the schools have the virtual tours. And some of the schools now are even having it where you can ask for like a student to call you. And so they'll actually have a student call you and, you know, have a very candid conversation with you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know what school it is, you can Instagram either of us. Our information was on the flyer. If you need it, just type in there and we'll get it to you, and we'll be glad to help you.
Absolutely. Yeah,
so what are some big challenges that you see for the incoming class, Ms. Crawford?
Adjustment would be the main one. Only because, I mean, they have the adjustment coming to the campus, but at least they have peers and, you know, student leadership that can help them with the transition. The adjustment, if they were to have to do this virtually, depending on the situation of the student, if they were just so ready to leave home and now they got to stay home a little longer, that could be a challenge. I mean, it's beyond our control, but it could damage the students, you know, productivity, if I may add. If they don't have, you know, access would be a main thing if we have to do this online virtually. Those are really the only concerns. Like, we know that they are capable of doing the work, but do they have the tools necessary to be successful? Are they environments that support them being successful and doing what needs to be done? Funding, they may not be as eager to get things done, get paperwork submitted because they're still home. They're looking for a change of scenery. And most times when you move, you're more eager to do what needs to be done, get things done. So the challenge with the graduating class that are attending college in the fall, it has to be mind over matter. Like, they have to be strong-minded and focused that this is what I'm going to do. I said I was going to college, I'm going to college. Nothing's going to stand in my way, and be just as committed to the process. Although if they're not on campus, this is if they're not on campus. If they're on campus, challenges is just adjustment. Someone may not have ever lived with anybody, having to wake themselves up for class. They may not be used to 8 o'clock classes, but that's the only time that class is offered. You got to go. Professors, you know, they give you the content and send you on your way. Now you go learn it.
Right.
Give you the content, send you away. Now you go learn it. So it's discipline, it's time management, it's balance. It's not being afraid to ask for help. Many of the schools have tutoring services, and the only way you're going to know is if you actually ask, if you search their website. You know, I'm so surprised every year how many students don't know this is available, that is available, regardless of what is sent out via email. We can't trust that y'all check your email, like, at all. We can't trust that. So if you want to be a little proactive, utilize every tab on the school's website. There's something in the Dropbox that will lead you to what you need or what you want. Like, I had a student say, well, I didn't know we had tutoring. For starters, it's been mentioned at the beginning of the year during your new student orientation. It's been emailed out. Your professor has mentioned it because I know I was there when they mentioned it. And now you didn't even think to utilize the website or where you are. There's so much information there, from funding to housing to organizations you can join, all that good stuff, that we just lazy. We are just a lazy group of people that just want everything handed and don't want to do any work. So that is my fear for them as it relates to the transition first time freshmen, especially if they have to stay home because they may or may not have the extra push to get things done because it's pretty much in their hands. Like it's in their hands. They have to become so responsible and accountable for everything that they do, every assignment they turn in, um, every every deadline that the school may have for something they may need from them. You know, it's just a lot. It is a lot, but I don't want them to fear the process, because every college student goes through it, whether they're in a dorm or in their home, whether they're local on campus or not. Every student goes through the exact same process. How you handle the process is what matters.
And I mean, that's the reality of being an adult. You know, when you get in the work world, your boss does not call you to get up and come to work.
Mhm.
You know when your paydays are. You know when the things that require for you to get done so you get your check.
And
And
although,
it doesn't matter where you work. If you work at McDonald's, you know your shifts are. You,
okay, you're gonna show up because you want that check. You show
right.
up to classes because you need that grade and you need that degree to reach the goals that you have. It's
And there is no shame in asking for help. And you know, I always had
I hate it.
that challenge with people, this concept that asking for tutoring or getting tutoring in some way diminishes you as a person. All of us have some area that we need extra support in.
Some type of tutoring,
Right.
whether it be a subject or just life matters it all works the same. Tutor, mentor, coach, they all work the same. So
So here's the
I hate when
question.
students are like ashamed to ask for help.
Mhm.
But at the same time, you got to have a want to for people to show you how to. So we can't read minds. At least I can't.
I don't try to. So here's the question. How involved would you encourage the parents to be? When should a parent just let that I'm grown child be grown? So I'll address this first. Um, some people don't know that at the college level, you know, we have FERPA. And so
Oh gosh.
just because you're paying the bill or you are the parent does not mean, one, that you have access to any information, or two, that we can really have discussions with you, because your child is an adult and they have to fill out a FERPA release. The other thing is they can fill out the release in front of you, and then as soon as you leave, go and remove it.
They can.
And so if you are not on the FERPA, I always got, you know, cussed out by parents all the time because I could not assist them. And I wasn't really trying to be difficult. It's just a legal thing. Like, I cannot help you. If you get your child to come in here, we can have a conversation, but I can't talk to you. So the issue, I mean, parents, I like for parents to be involved, but at the end of the day, there's a time when we all have to let our children go and be grown. And sometimes they have to mess up in order to learn.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to leave them, you know, out stray, but that's when you build relationships with administrators and faculty on the campus. Like, for instance, Ms. Cranford's position, that's probably somebody you should get to know. Because if you're having some concerns about your child, reach out to her and say, you know, I have not heard from Timothy for the last week and a half. I'm not sure what's going on. Can you check on him, because you know, this is not normal. Those types of things, but it's not conducive to, as Mr. Henderson said, to help them with the transition to professional living, for you to still be overly parenting them while they're at college, because then when they get out, they're still gonna need to be parented.
Yeah. So with that whole parent involved thing, I think it's okay for the parent to help them in the process to get to college. I said help, not do. Your child or your student needs to understand what's happening, why I'm signing these documents. What does this mean? Because you'll be surprised how many come to campus and the office may need something else and they don't even understand what are you talking about. And they have to call mama. And then at this point now, mama, daddy think that they have total access. No, the student call you, not us. So the student needs to understand the process as it relates to the paperwork, even from the FAFSA. Let them see what you're doing. Let them see the documents you have to submit so they can understand what's happening on their behalf. Because when they get to campus, they may have to answer a question about it. And what if you're not available? It could be urgent. Those are things to consider. Now, once they get to college, drop them off. Let them grow. This is what they signed up for. Don't think that you have to have total control over what's happening. I've seen many parents come through that are like, well, my child's not going to be able to do this. My child's not going to be, and the child is sitting right here, either not paying attention or in their headphones, or the child is like, no, I can do that. Let your child do what they say they can do. Like, stop limiting them because of what your fear is. Let them do what they want to do. And then you have some that come in that are just, oh, let me take 20 hours. That you're not going to do, because we need to see if you're going to make this adjustment first. That's our call. 18 may be the max, but we have like CDUP students, they may take 20, 22 hours, but that's how their program is set up. So a student has to first understand the terminology that associated. They say, oh, I'm taking 18 hours. Just because you take 18 hours, you got to pass all 18 hours. Oh, well, I took that class. Well, did you pass that class? I don't know, but I took it. They got to understand this whole transition by themselves. And parents being involved up until they get that acceptance, up until enrollment has hit and they've moved in. Once y'all drop them off, let them linger a little bit by themselves for about a week or two. Don't call them every day. Let them try to figure it out. Like, you can call and check in once a week. Let them and encourage them to make the adjustment, to get involved. Students failing to adjust is sometimes just a feeling thing, because it is a true adjustment. It's a true transition. They're with strangers, total strangers. And they may not even like them like that, just getting to know them. But you have to let go in order for them to grow. The discomfort is a growth factor.
And along those same lines, often students will, say they're homesick and they want to come home and all of those things. That is a normal part of the transition. Pulling them out immediately is not always the best solution. I've had parents come pick up their kids and then they're already home, and then they call and say, well, they don't go there anymore. But, it is an adjustment, as Ms. Cranford said. I mean, you pull them out of home, you put them in a whole new living situation, a very independent structure. But part of that structure is critical for them to be able to do that as an adult. And we don't always have the luxury of just quitting. And then we have students who really do want to be independent and try it on their own. And sometimes the parents' views on what the student's limitations are not accurate. The student has just not had the opportunity to grow and be themselves. And the college experience does that quite well. The other thing is, often we see students majoring in things that their parents want them to major in, and they do not have the academic aptitude to be successful in that field. So sometimes parent involvement can really stifle a student's progress.
Well, you have to know your child or your student. If your child struggled with math all through high school, there's a strong chance they don't want to major in math.
If they can't pass biology, they probably are not going to be a doctor.
You want them to be, and doctors come in all forms. They aren't all medical.
Mm-hmm.
That's a point that many people miss as well. Like, I want my child to be a doctor. Well, there's a doctor in almost every profession right now. You just have to find the one that interests you. And on top of that, parents have to realize it's not their dream. Like, you gotta let your student, your child, be. Like, you could be limiting so much greatness because this is what you wanted, especially for those that may haven't attended college before or even put someone through school before. This is what I want to see type mentality that seems to take place with some parents. Try to listen to your child when, they're not interested in things. Whatever you get the resistance from, that's not the driving force. That's just something they're not interested in. And even entering college, many colleges create assessments. If your assessment comes back, oh, it seems like you want to do business, but you say you want to do biology, a conversation has to be had because those are
Mhm.
two different paths. Two different paths. If you don't like science, math, labs, long days, biology is not it. Business, you're going to have some math. Yeah. You're going to have to do some stat work. Yes. Management work. All of that is going to take place. But there are assessments online that students can take now to kind of help them figure out what their interests are. That may lead them to the right major. And you have to know what major you want to know what school you're going to attend. You need to know the majors of the institutions. You can't come to Fort Valley and say, I want to major in kinesiology. Is not a major. That further lets me know you haven't done any research. You're just here. So we have to work even harder now to make sure we get you on the right path. Figure out what it is you really want to do. When I was a recruiter, there was a student that said they want to do kinesiology because that's what their coach did. They were playing a sport, coach, that was their job, I guess, and that's why they wanted to do it. That's all good and well, but you're choosing a school that don't even have it or even have a practice in it. So you have to do the research necessary to get to where you want to go if this is really what you want to do. I do suggest students do assessments online, career assessments, personality assessments, all that good stuff to figure out who you are, what you think you want to do. From that assessment, really take into consideration what you want your major to be, which is something we're looking at, at my institution. Like, we have to find a better way. It minimizes major changes for starters.
Mhm.
So if you can minimize the major changes, you can minimize and stick to your path 4 to 5 year graduation rate. But if you're running from a major every time you hit a hard course, then that is also a problem because that takes place.
And knowing what majors will lead to different careers.
Exactly.
People want to be lawyers, but they all think they have to be a pre-law major. Well, there are a lot of people with law degrees that have business degrees, history degrees, English degrees.
Yeah, so that's like beginning with the end in mind. Like,
Right.
when I was in college, I just knew I wanted to be a physical therapist. I knew I wanted to be a physical therapist. I did shadowing maybe that third year of college. I was like, this is cute, but it's not it. At that point, I stuck with biology because I still had an interest in biology. And I just ended up teaching middle high school only for like a year, left it at that. But in order for me to get to that DPT, the Doctor of Physical Therapy, I knew I was going to Armstrong, Atlantic. I knew it, did my research. But Payne required that I only have 2 psychologies, but for me to get into that degree program, I had to have 3 psychologies. So within my time at Payne, I had to find a way to meet the prereq necessary for the program. And I'm saying that to say, if your child or your student want to major in something in the medical field, see what their prereqs are.
Mm-hmm.
Prereqs could be human anatomy, but guess what? For someone to take human anatomy, they have to
There are other prereqs before human anatomy.
all of that before then. It's like, I can just come in and take the course. No, you can't, because there are prereqs required for that course that's necessary for the degree program. So you have to realize every aspect, every chemistry, every bio, every psychology, and whatever math they require. Most times it's a prereq to the ultimate class that you have to have completed. Now, if you were to complete all those prereqs and want to apply, you still got to have your degree. You got to have your bachelor's degree. So you just have to find out the path necessary to meet your ultimate goal, if it is something in the medical field. And then once you figure out that path, then you got to go forward with it. You have to find the time. You may not want to do summer school, but summer may be the only time that you can take that course necessary that's required for you to get into medical school or law school. Know what those are. On top of having the prereqs, their tests, you got to have like MCAT, LSAT, right? GMAT, all that stuff. They all require tests. So even if there are parents on here that are considering going back to school, look into those schools as well, because even at the graduate level, they are waiving test scores. You have to take a GRE or GMAT, apply, send your transcript from your previous.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all can do that as well. Make it a team effort in the home.
Most parents are just in parenting mode and don't realize they're hindering their child from making decisions. Do you all share or encourage parents to allow their child to make decisions on their own? I always encourage parents to let the child make the decisions on their own. Sometimes they'll mess up, and that's part of the process as well. But if they can't make some decisions on their own, then they're not going to be able to do it when they leave. You can't while you can. But it is not most beneficial for you to be a parent to be doing all of the work. For instance, I've had students that didn't know their own social security numbers.
Ooh.
So we're trying to move forward with financial aid stuff, but we're having to wait days for the parent to call them with the social security number. At the college level, students are considered adults, and there's an expectation that they can handle their own business. And so I know on my end, I encourage the students to make their own decisions. And if we need a parent, I mean, we never have a problem, reaching out to a parent and asking a parent for, information or assistance, but it's always most beneficial to let the young person make their own decisions.
Sorry, one of my students was calling.
Oh, it's fine. I mean, we all still working.
As it relates to that question, do you all share or encourage parents? Okay, so when I was an academic advisor, I was probably one of the more blunt advisors at that moment. So there was the student would sit there with the parent, well, myself and one of my other colleagues. The student would sit there with the parent. The parent would be the one trying to talk to me about the schedule. I'm not looking at the parent, I'm looking at the student, which they could feel some type of way, but it's just about the student. So I need the student to be just as engaged as you are as the parent. So if the parent wants to assist in that aspect, tap your child, tell them to look, listen. Do you see what they're talking about? Do you understand? That's what the advisement process is for. Not just for you to come by and pick up your classes. When we advise, we need to talk about what your goals are. Like, what is it that you know you struggle with, or what are you good at, type thing. So if we're sitting here and we're having a conversation, the student is like, no, I can't do the 8 o'clock. We would do our best not to put them in at 8 o'clock because we want them to be successful. However, if this is the class that you need and 8 o'clock is the only time available, then we got to make sure you get to your 8 o'clock. So we have to paint the picture in that sense. Parents got to realize where their hindrance come. Like, are you listening or are you just pushing? Are you telling your student or are you are you telling your child or are you listening to your child? And that hindrance could cause them not to be successful as a student, as an individual. So it's very important for parents to pay attention to their child or their student and their no's. And I say again, the resistance. They're giving you attitude about something, and this is the attitude you've probably never seen before. And there's a strong chance that this is not something of their liking. And you're setting them up for failure. You're going to waste dollars because they're not going to be engaged or active in the class or on the campus. But they may be active on campus because there's a lot going on. But in the classroom, it's not of their interest. It's the parents' interest. So you have to realize that, because it's going to hurt you in the long run. You got these loans with no grades.
Right.
Your child is just present. You paying room and board, but your child is not attending the classes. So the conversation has to be had. There has to be an understanding. And I do encourage parents to do the process, shadow the process, the application process, scholarship, applying up into the schedule, up until move-in day. Once they move in, y'all should be done with your parenting as it relates to side by side. Right now, you have to allow the student the chance to make the adjustment. It may not be done in a week. It may not be done in the first month, but don't be the encouraging type and tell them to try this, try that, or to go talk to someone. Many students, new students to come in and they're just trying to go through the process alone, make the adjustment alone, and not speak to anybody about it. So I train my leaders. I know y'all are excited and y'all are trying to help every student, every 500 to 600 new freshmen that come in, but also pay attention to the one that's standoffish and not really talking to anybody. Check on that. I even choose my leaders. They don't all have to have amazing energy.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are quiet. I need those to be able to relate with the students that are coming in and quiet. Some are standoffish. I need to relate to the student that's coming in and may not be as vibrant, so I try to choose my leaders different characters, different aspect, different energy.
Perfect example. We had the student ambassadors that do the tours.
Hmm.
One of them, I mean, she was really standoffish before we made her an ambassador. Ended up being the best tour giver in the whole. I mean, knew every bit of history of the college. Every tour she did, all the students decided were coming to the school. So that's a very valid point. I think it takes everybody because you don't want to discourage people. And some of those shy people, like Val at Payne, Val was very quiet. She very rarely talked to people. Probably one of the most brilliant people I have ever met in my life. But she's, in general, one of those people that people normally would not look at. Then played Zeta, and then was on in the Creme, the modeling club. So, it takes all kinds, and I think that's a very valid point. So here's another question. Parents have already completed FAFSAs, but now are out of work, had salary adjustments prior to COVID-19. What are our recommendations for making FAFSA changes, or how should families handle? So this is a good question. I actually had someone contact me about this a second ago. Well, maybe 4 days ago. There are a couple of things. You probably need to write to the financial aid office at the school and let them know that there has been a salary adjustment to the documents that were submitted on the FAFSA. And then once that's done, talk to the financial aid counselor. I think, none of us were prepared for this adjustment. And so we're making a lot of accommodations in higher ed for that. And that is not an uncommon situation right now. And some families are experiencing significant changes. There's also a way for you to make a FAFSA correction. And so if you go and log into the FAFSA, there should be an option for you to make a FAFSA correction, or contact, the FAFSA office and ask them what is the quickest and most significant way to do that so that, you can have the correct paperwork. But always stay in touch with the school as well and let them know that you're doing that, because that might also make you eligible for other funds at the school.
Yeah, that's the only way to handle that FAFSA situation, to let them know.
And none of us were prepared for this. So a lot of, especially federal officers, are making accommodations to help people. And so if it was a significant change, let them know, and they should allow you to do a correction. Here's another question. What would you say to a parent that can't afford to send their child to college, or that parent has an income that prohibits their child from receiving Pell? That's a good question. So I was in that situation, and that was a number of years ago. But my parents made enough for us, but they made too much for me to receive any aid that did not require repayment. But I wanted to go to school, and so I went. That is the key. If you feel that college is best and something that you all really want to do, then there's going to probably be an investment that has to be made. There are loans. I am not one of those administrators that thinks that every student should be taking out all these loans and then end up in so much debt that they can never pay it back. But that is an option, and sometimes that's a serious option for the first year. Do well, and then figure out ways to, not take out further loans. But if college is something that you feel is the best interest and something that needs to happen, there potentially are going to be some, sacrifices. But some of that is not just on the parents.
Yeah.
Students have to be invested in their education. I've had students that have worked full-time jobs and graduated with honors. So
as it relates to not being able to afford, Pell is not the only funding. So there's scholarships out here, the avenues necessary. I know several students that have come to college. Parents are like, well, I don't have the money. They do the FAFSA. They see what those options are. They see what additional or external scholarships exist that may be aligned from an organization or within a department or the major focus, you have to truly sell yourself that you want to be here. And in most cases, they're going to find a way to make it happen. Many colleges have, these emergency funds. They may use that to, help cover the costs. There are jobs on campus. If I was to be an RA or if I was to receive work study because I did my FAFSA, sometimes those work study dollars be a lot. They be a lot. If they have it and they use it properly, they can pay for the remaining tuition or room and board. Um, Many campuses, if they want the student, they're going to try their best to make the adjustment to admit and enroll the student, especially if they see the drive. You can't just have it be a force or a driving force of the parent because they're not convinced by the parent, they're convinced by the student. So you need to mold your child to make the conversations, to ask the questions necessary about aid. Like, I really want to come to this school. How can I receive more funding? I've seen our financial aid office like scramble to find dollars for someone of interest, or if they had a balance, especially if they're a good student, they have good grades, no behavior issues, they don't have any student conduct issues. They will do what they can to the best of their ability or work it out just for that student. And most schools have payment plans.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives you the opportunity to save, put things away, and make the payment when you can. But just know that by the end of the semester, you have to have that balance cleared. That is the goal. Some schools may let it roll over, and that's why many will be in trouble. So you have to set it up like that scholarship hustle. Like, I had a friend on last week, or was it earlier this week? Her job was to search scholarships because the parents, they told her they didn't have the funds. So she looked for every scholarship possible that related to who she was and what she wanted to do. When it comes to searching scholarships, you got to know what it is you want to do and be certain about it, because there are scholarships catered to that particular focus. There are scholarships catered to that particular individual, whatever unique talent or location, race, as I mentioned before, gender. You consider all that when you search for scholarships, all of that.
And I mean, you can go to fastweb.com. I mean, they have scholarships for someone that doesn't have a thumb on their left hand. I mean, they have scholarships for everything.
Yeah, a deceased parent, parents. There's funding out there for almost every aspect of life. It's just the search. It's tedious. That's the thing. That's why we suggest that you search for scholarships, not your senior year, but your junior year. So you at least know when your senior year comes, you know what that scholarship is asking for starters, whether it be recommendation letters, your letter of interest of why you need it, and then you know what the deadlines fall. So when that year comes, that senior year, when it's time to submit for these dollars, you already got it mapped out. I already have it mapped out, and you can just, put forth what needs to be there. And I don't suggest people write, every scholarship will probably ask for an essay. Write a general essay of who you are, what your goals are. Why do you want, the scholarship? That goal part is the meat of it. You got to have that to the T. How will this scholarship help you obtain your future goals? These are key things. And some scholarships may be just as bland. Like Samaya said, what is excellence to you? Why is it important to have goals? The essay topics can be just that general, but you have an idea and not turn away because it asks for an essay. Because most scholarships want to ask you the same thing. You just have to cater it and refine it to meet the actual scholarship that you're applying for. The money is there. People say it over and over, and people are like, well, I don't know, I don't see it. It's because, for one, we're too late, applying. So now it feels like everything has to be quick, and they're saying no funding. But dollars sit there. They sit there. And when you go to those things like FastWeb and get these big scholarship books, that's tedious alone. But when you go to these websites and such, just make sure that is legit. Like, make sure you can follow it to the T of where it's coming from, and you're not wasting time. Because some things could be out there, just because. But FastWeb is a good one. My school sends FastWeb all the time. All the time. But you still want to check out the credentials of it to make sure that it's legit. Find a contact, see if the scholarship, just ask a general question, just to. Hmm? Yeah, just ask the question necessary to make sure that the scholarship is actually, real.
And there are a lot of, I mean, a lot of churches will help young people that are going to college. Our church often raises money to help our students that go to college. If you're in organizations, Ms. Cranford said earlier, a lot of organizations have scholarships. I know the Links have scholarships. Most fraternities and sororities have scholarships. So sometimes, as she said, it's just doing a tedious work that many people don't want to do. And a lot of that money goes unclaimed because people don't request it. I mean, even some of the UNCF schools, the requirements to get the money is not a lot, but students won't even sometimes do the little profile on the website so they can be awarded.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
there are a lot of ways to find funding.
It's just tedious, and that's the part that turns us away because it's tedious and it requires us to write, believe it or not. But it is a tedious process.
But those are all the questions that are in the chat box. Ms. Cranford, did you have anything you wanted to close with? Because we've been on here hour or so.
Could y'all speak on parents
It's been a good discussion.
coming to realization that they will come in contact with children who have very different values? Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't even see that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Parents have to really encourage their students that college is a melting pot. It is a big melting pot. People in different backgrounds, different beliefs, uh, home training, no home training. They may have a good dialect or not. Uh, so basically, they need to enter college with an open mind. It's a clean slate. It is a clean slate, and all all students weren't raised the same way you may have raised your child, whether it was good or bad in the home. But you have to encourage your child or your student, remember the morals that I taught you. Remember the things that you learned and carry them forward. I always say to my students, if there's any doubt, just count it out. Like, that's not it. If you're doubting whatever this decision is or this move you're trying to make, if there's a doubt, just count it out. It's not for you. It's not built for you. Apparently, you have some type of feeling or resistance towards it that you shouldn't carry out, whatever it is. Um, and although people may look the part, some may still have some sort of struggle. So you can't assume that everyone has or carries themselves in the manner that you have, or learn what you learn in high school. All high schools are kind of different. Just because they graduated doesn't mean they learned the same content or had the same teachers to pour into them like you had. So the open mind is probably the greatest factor. Um, get to learn people for who they are, and the things that they do, and not what you assume or what you think they should or should not be. Like, those things actually matter. That's really all I have on that.
And I mean, college is a microcosm of the real world. And those are the types of people that you will have to deal with in the real world. Both of us have to work with people that sometimes have very different values, beliefs, and mindsets than what we're used to. And so part of that college experience is helping you learn how to work within the confines of people who do have different opinions and views.
Right.
But learning how to do that effectively and professionally is part of the experience. One of the things I enjoyed about my undergrad experience was being in a situation with people of varying socioeconomic situations and from all different parts of the country. I came from inner city Detroit. So, I had never really met anyone from the West Coast. And so it was interesting to me that although we're in the same country, how very different people from, California and the West Coast are. Now I'm a Southerner, but when I came to the South, it was a very different experience for me. So, but that is part of the experience, and I think that's a good part. But like you said, it's just you have to keep an open mind, and you cannot attempt to superimpose your own beliefs on other people. Sometimes the solution is to agree to disagree. And we have to do that professionally as well. There are just sometimes I think an argument is not going to be beneficial to resolution, and so we would just be happy with where we are.
Yeah, that is major. And the college experience is probably the greatest growing factor that a student will encounter. Um, they find themselves, and that's beyond what parents have taught them. They find themselves the things that they're passionate about on the college experience, but they only find it if they're involved. Honestly, they only find it through experience. And you have many students ask, "Well, how do I know if I'm good at this or I'm good at that?" You just got to try it.
Hmm.
You just got to try it. Me speaking and addressing people was not on my goals. Was not on my goals. Experience will push you into positions and places that you never thought you'll be. And that's how you learn more about who you are, you learn about your passion and your purpose all begins to form. You won't always have the answers. You're going to fail. I tell my first year students all the time, even when I check in and I go into the classroom, I be like, y'all failed something this week? It's okay. Shake it off. Now you got to do better the next time. It's done. Like, don't even carry that anymore. You failed. It's done. You failed a test or failed to turn in an assignment. You got your one failure. Now, what are you going to do to fix it? I always ask them and make them verbally tell me what are the practices that they're going to do to fix it. Because if they don't speak it, then they're probably not going to do it. If they don't understand it or comprehend it, then they probably won't follow suit. So college is the ultimate experience. And although now they're having to complete it virtually, we still have to remain engaged. We still got to do what we got to do. Um,
I
just
mean, it is a learning experience. I started college and I was going to be a corporate lawyer,
told you.
and I was never going to be in education. Like, my mother was a 37-year educator, and I swear that was the one career I was never going to do. And then I did it, much later in life, and I actually loved it.
Yeah.
And so I think college is that. I did learn in undergrad that I did not want to be a lawyer.
Mhm.
I had wanted to be a lawyer since I was like 6.
Experience. Like sometimes you know and sometimes you don't know. And like when I went to visit Payne that weekend, it was me and another girl, which she's a good friend of mine now. But even then, in that moment, we're touring together. We're having the Payne College experience that weekend. We look at each other like, well, if you come, I'll come. We don't know each other, but this is just a pact that we took in. You come, I'll come, and we came. We saw, we conquered. And Dr. Bianca starts now in Dallas. We came the same weekend. We agreed to come. All right, I'm submitting. We're committing because we came as student athletes. And being a student athlete takes a little more out of you as well because
Hmm.
get up 5 a.m. in the morning
It's
to
still
run
dark.
and go to class. And us being biology majors, we're still in class till like 5:50. The calf opened for dinner at 5, but we got to be to practice at 6. By the time we got to practice, okay, y'all got 10 minutes to make it to the calf, or no, y'all can't get the calf, so we got to order y'all some food. Like it was a true around the clock. And even on travel, when we had to travel and be away, like it's an adjustment. So you have to figure out and be so disciplined. But the experience is well worth it. I know I had a thought that I need to go home my first semester, but my teammates, we all helped make the adjustment. I didn't go home. So we helped make the adjustment. We were all having a little homesick moment. It was like, y'all, we have to fix this. Like, because we're in this together. We committed ourselves to being in it to the end.
I
So
almost quit,
people that are gonna
and
push you.
the whole Glee Club came to my dorm room and was like, "What is this we hear about you quitting school?" I was like, "I don't think I'm cut out for it." By the time we finished the discussion, I said, "Oh, I think I'll stay." But I just was like, "I can't do this."
Man, I'm trying to tell you, but I would not change one thing about my experience.
Right.
And now that I think back on it, there's some things that I learned that I didn't even realize I learned, or things that have shaped and molded me and grew me that I didn't even know that experience was for that aspect. Because now I'm having to use these same nuggets to encourage, the student that I interact with.
I think it shocks them because they're always like, "How did you all know that? We were in school at one time and nothing has changed."
I'm like, Miss Cramp, you just seen the know experience. Experience. I say, and you'll learn a nugget yourself that you have to share with somebody else along the way. So they got to be open-minded. They have to stay encouraged. Like, self-motivation is the greatest factor right now because it takes a lot more to do the things that you want to do because you're having to be still.
Yeah.
So that self-motivation has to be 100. It has to be unwavering, and you have to be sure and certain in what it is that you want, um, to even be, successful. Like, you have to know what your want is to know what you're working towards, and then working towards that every moment, every day, whatever, every decision that you make. Self motivation, because no one is there to tap you on your shoulder, to push you, to hold your hand always. Like, you have to overly exert that mind and that mental that this is what I want, so this is what I got to do. And don't be afraid to communicate and ask the question. I saw someone say communication is key. Communication is key, and it is very okay to be different. You're going to be different regardless, because everyone was created differently. But you have to embrace who you are and understand who you are. But the most important thing is understanding that the perspective of others is not going to be the same of what you think it should be.
Right.
Respecting for the perceptions or the perspective of others people is so major. Like, it minimizes stress for me because, okay, they just didn't get it the way I got it, or they have a different picture, but I'm not going to stress myself about it because you can't control people's perceptions of who you are and what you do. So, judging people, we shouldn't judge, and we probably judge more than we really realize it. And at the end of the day, you just have to say, forgive me. You didn't know. Or you can't be so minimized in your approach to communicating with people that you're not willing to learn about the individual. That's why I say you got to have an open mind. So being different is expected. You don't have to be alike to be like. That makes
Right.
sense. You will
Yeah.
attract, you will attract the right people that are necessary for you and your growth in the process. And if someone don't get you on day one, they may get you on day 30 or 31. So just be unwavering in who you are as long as it's for the good, and you will attract the people necessary. You'll be surprised how many students say, oh yeah, that person cool, but another student that may be friend with they may have a mutual friend. The other friend may say, oh yeah, she don't talk much. Oh well, she talked to me. You attract who you attract. You give off the vibe necessary to the people that you want to entertain or you want to grow or get to know. So
And I think one of the biggest challenges for many is you're always, if you're on campus, you're always on campus. Like, you live there with these people, you go to class with these people, you eat with these people. And that's a big adjustment from high school, where at least you need to go home and you don't have to deal with the people. And that can be a little frustrating and a little overwhelming because, when folks get on your nerves, there's nowhere to go.
right.
So that goes back to communication. It is okay sometimes to just tell people, I need a little alone time.
Yeah.
Or, say I need to go study, and just take you some time to breathe.
It's okay. You have to communicate those things.
Mm-hmm.
Your roommate, communication is vital for your roommate, for your suite mate, for the cafeteria lady, for the janitorial staff, for your academic advisor, for your professor, for the financial aid office, for the security guard or the police officer at the gate let you into campus. You got to communicate. Communication is key to everything. And if you don't know how to communicate it, explain it to somebody else and see if they can help you formulate
Right.
what it is that you're trying to say. Like, it's okay to ask for help. If y'all don't get nothing else, know that it's okay to ask for assistance and help, especially during this time. It's okay.
Well, I think that's it. We don't have any more questions.
Okay.
So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I know I appreciate it. I'm sure you do too. You have any last words, Ms. Cranford?
Last words. Hopefully the things that were shared today were beneficial and you feel a little more at ease or know what you need to do to move forward or your next step. And if you don't and still have more questions, again, as he stated before, feel free to hit us up on our IG. I am AV Cranford on Instagram. So feel free to shoot me any questions, any ideas. I don't mind assisting where I can and helping you kind of, work through all of your wires in your brain to help you, make your decision that you need to make. I do encourage you to stay safe, um, stay motivated, be intentional, be very intentional about everything that you do as it relates to the college process. Aim to understand, and if you don't understand, don't be afraid to ask.
And don't hinder yourself from applying. If you're an older, non-traditional student, apply. High school senior, apply. If this is the time that you've been wanting to go to grad school, apply. Like, this is the ideal time to, make this commitment and do this, while they're making it convenient for everyone.
Yeah. When I went on live with my students Thursday night, and a lot of them are feeling discouraged, like they're just over it, honestly. Like they have good grades, but they're just over it. I said, honestly, y'all, this is the moment you need to hang in there, because it's like a free card, like get out of jail type thing. Like you need to stay in there, just hang in there to the end. Your professors are understanding that the transition, it was sudden. They understand that some of you had to receive, assistance and access, may have those issues. So we just honestly need y'all to finish the semester, because it's going to be on your side. I just had to tell them it's going to be on your side, because everyone's having to make the adjustment. No, we can't just give y'all A's and B's, sacks. Like, we still want y'all to receive your degree accredited.
Right.
So just understand, we just need y'all to stay the course, do your part, do your work. Yes, your professors are giving you assignments. Do them, submit them on time, and I promise you, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. So just hang in there. And I tell them all the time, finish strong. Like, we're in this together. We got this. So don't be afraid to ask for assistance. Or if you just need a little motivation, I'll give you whatever little energy I got left.
And there's a whole team of people that really does want you to be successful.
Oh, yeah.
I know sometimes we seem a little hard.
Push.
Right. But our ultimate goal is for you to complete the journey and to be successful. So, we're both here. I put our IGs on the screen. Feel free to reach out to us. We do respond. We're not some of the people that have stuff and don't respond. Perhaps we respond a lot more than we probably need to. But we live on social media because our students do. And so we're always glad to help. If you have questions, hit us up. And we look forward to sharing with you all in the future.
Thank y'all so much. Enjoy your Saturday.
All right. Bye.
See ya.